Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training, and we're going to discuss the concept of cueing the cue. So when you're performing exercises, and this would even be true of isolation exercises, where you're doing something that only targets one muscle, but it's absolutely true of exercises that involve multiple muscles and multiple joints, is the concept of cues, which are just like reminders or things you want to do while you're doing the movement. So, for example, we're going to bring up a lot of squats in the kind of examples of the discussion today. So let's go through the squats. So something that somebody might want to remember is when they're racking, like when they're going to unrack the bar. So the bar is sitting in the J-cups in the rack. They're going to get their hands on the bar. They're going to get underneath the bar, and they might want to cue themselves to pull the bar down into their back as they stand up. Now, this sounds ridiculous, maybe to pull the bar down on you when you're trying to squat it up, but what it does, it actually helps you feel more secured to the bar. So you're actually going to squeeze your shoulder blades together. You're going to use your lats to pull your shoulders downward, and then you're pulling the bar down onto your shoulder blades. So depending on whether you use a high bar or low bar position, wherever the bar sits, but by pulling the bar down into your back, it's actually going to help you feel more secure to the back, and it can actually cause a lot of the muscles of the upper back to brace, which can then hold your posture better while you squat. So for all of those benefits, somebody might have the cue of pull the bar down. So every time they get under the bar, they're going to say pull the bar down, or something like that. They might just say pull, or squeeze or something, but they're going to have a cue, a word that reminds them of this concept, this muscular action they want to perform, so that way they can get the benefits of that muscular action. So multiple, like our lifts, everything we do has multiple cues. So even on regular exercises, you want to try to remember to breathe at the right time. So you breathe in when the muscle's expanding, when you breathe out when the muscle's contracting, whatever the working muscle might be. So there are different kind of cues, different ways we think of performing the movement. So the concept of cueing the cue, what this means is often people will struggle with remembering or improving upon the feeling of execution of a cue. So if somebody wants to learn how to pull the bar down into their back, they might do behind the head lat pull downs. Because in a sense, that exercise is the exact same freaking motion. So a behind the neck, like behind the head pull down, lat pull down, and this is of if they have proper shoulder health and blah, 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 and if the exercise is performed correctly. So let's just assume the person's doing it right. So if they can do that exercise right, that's going to give them repetitions of the feeling of pulling the bar down onto their upper back, which then lets them feel what the feeling will be like when they pull the bar down onto their back in a squat. So something like a behind the neck lat pull down might be a good cueing exercise to learn how to pull the bar down onto the back in a squat. So they're going to cue the cue. So they're going to use lat pull downs as the cue for the cue of pulling the bar down onto the back. So that's what we're talking about in this podcast, is the concept of cueing the cue. Now, this is helpful to understand because if somebody says pull the bar down, and you're like, well, I don't really know what that feels like. We'll just pull the bar down. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, if I pull the bar down, like, is that going to make the bar fall off me? Pull the bar down. If they just keep saying that, okay, over and over again, that isn't going to help. It is better for them as a coach, or if you're trying to tell yourself, if you're arguing with yourself on this, it's better for you to get a feeling that you can mimic and get used to. Okay, a feeling that's separate from the large movement. And then you can put that feeling back into the large movement. So you want to take away all the other things, all the other feelings, and try to isolate out to only the feeling that you want to learn. Then once you learn it, you identify it, you have the feeling of it, you put it back into the large movement. So for example, one of the things I used to argue with myself all the time is whenever I learned to bench press, I was told to pull the bar down into me. I think that's a ridiculously stupid cue, so I don't use it anymore. But somebody who was teaching me to bench, okay, they said, pull the bar down into you. And my reply was, the bar is falling on me. So The bar, if I pull, the bar is already going to fall at a pretty fast rate, a rate faster than I can really safely handle. So if you want me to then pull it down even harder onto me, that doesn't seem like a very intelligent thing, and it's so damn dumb that my body won't even do it. So they said, just pull the bar down, you'll feel your back squeeze. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if I pull the bar down, I'm going to die. I want a big bench, but I don't want to die. So it really struggled for a long time in my mind, figuring out what the hell did they really mean. So eventually I found out that what they meant was, as the bar lowers down, I want to squeeze the muscles of my back as if I were doing a row, like a seated cable row. If I squeezed the muscles of my back, it maintained a tight shoulder blade positioning and bracing for the bench press, which made me safer and stronger. So I actually needed to squeeze the muscles of my back, not, quote unquote, pull the bar down. In their head, they were saying the words pull the bar down. What they meant was probably squeeze the back. But those weren't the words they were using. So without me understanding what they meant to say, I was going with the literal words that they were saying. So that's an example where I had to argue with myself and say, what the hell does that actually mean? What does that feel like? How do I do that? So, for example, if I told somebody to pull the bar down onto their back and they said, well, what do you mean by that? I would say, hey, come here, over here. Let's go over and do some behind the head lat pull downs. Okay? Let's put on some light weight. Let's have you do some repetitions and feel the muscles of the back squeezing together and squeezing down. Now, do you feel this movement? You feel how it gives you a nice tight back? Let's go over to the bar now, back over in the squat, and let's try to find that feeling again. So the lat pull downs is a way to cue the cue. You are cueing the cue of pulling the bar down on your back. So those type of exercises are freaking amazing and super duper helpful. So if you don't have those in your training, or if you don't know that they're in there, so I've programmed for people before and they're like, why am I doing this? I'm like, it's the exact same thing as a bench. And they're like, what, really? And we have to explain it. Now that's okay, I don't mind doing that. It's great, that's what they're paying me for, is a learning opportunity. But oftentimes in the programming I write for clients, they have to do upper back work before they bench press. The reason why is because I want them to get the sensations of squeezing their back, get a lot of blood into their back, improve their mind-muscle connection with their back, so that way when they go bench, they're aware of what their back is doing. So proper programming should have cueing exercises in before the large movements, or things after the large movements that collectively over the period of, say, 12 to 16 weeks will improve the feeling of something that happens in a main lift. So sometimes you can do cueing exercises before the lift, and you can do cueing exercises after the lift. The cueing one before is because you want the acute, immediate response. The cueing after is kind of like a cumulative response you want over time. But all good programming should have that stuff included. So if you're programming for yourself, that's what we're going to talk about today, is how do you figure out like some cueing of the cues? How do you figure that out? I'm not going to be able to give you every exercise that would ever work for every cue always. I just want to give you some examples, get your brain thinking, and give you some concepts to think of, and then see if you can improve that and figure it out on your own. Okay? So, for example, in conjunction with this podcast, I will be posting something on our social media page, okay, on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter under the name Brutal Iron Gym. So we post something every day. But on there, I'm going to be posting a video about what I'm about to talk about. And then it will sync up with this podcast. So if you start looking at our social media, and we'll even throw the video up on YouTube. So YouTube, podcasting, and social media should all kind of link together and give you guys kind of all the information that hopefully helps you out. So there's going to be an example of my mom working on some cueing the cue exercises in her squat. So for example, we're using a kettlebell, a big heavy ass kettlebell, and she's doing duck walks with the kettlebell. So she's picking up a 97-pound kettlebell and she's walking with it hanging between her legs. She has to keep a slight forward lean while she does this, meaning she can't shove her hips underneath her shoulders and push her pelvis into the arms to give support. She has to keep her butt back. This is going to have a forward tilt in her body, but she has to learn how to brace a really freaking heavy weight, keep her abs tight, keep her lower back and mid-back tight, kind of walk with her hips, not overbend her knees. So it's giving her a lot of corrections on a tight body position while moving in a slight forward tilt. That's actually the exact same motions as unracking and re-racking a squat. So one of the things we're working on with my mom is how to unrack and re-rack a squat, so in a safe, healthy position, not to flare up any back issues, cause hip issues, just have her more accountable as she gets stronger and stronger. So my mom's best squat is 264 pounds in a competition. She only weighs like 140-ish pounds. So it's getting up to twice her body weight. So when she unracks that bar, even though she's not starting the squat until she puts her feet and bends her knees, she's pretty much under the pressure of the weight right away. As soon as she unracks it, she can get hurt. So we're teaching her how to unrack and re-rack the weight with good body positioning awareness. So we're using the exercise of a duck walk as the cue to learn the cue of unracking and re-racking the bar with safe positions. So we know that with a duck walk, she doesn't have to worry about anything else. We eliminate other concerns that may be going on when she has the bar on her back in a squat. And we want to isolate only the concern of a tight core and safe body position. So, by using the duck walk, rather than just having her unrack and re-rack a bar 4 million times, we have her do the duck walk to learn what it feels like to be tight. Then when she goes under the bar, she can search for that feeling. She already knows what it is. She knows it's there. She can go look for it. Rather than her going under the bar and then having to figure out whatever the hell it feels like. So by her using that duck walk, she is learning the sensation in isolation. Then she's going to put that sensation back into the big movement, and she'll know how to do it then. So she's identifying the feeling away from the big movement. So then when she's in the big movement with all the other things going on, she can search for that feeling because it's already known. So that's an example. Another example I have is a female I'm helping with powerlifting. So she's around right now, I think like a 170, 175 pound bench press as her PR. So she's pretty strong. She doesn't even weigh 170. She's tall and thin. She has good muscle to her, but she's a thin frame. So 170 is pretty damn impressive. So we're wanting to get better at that. And one of the things we were working on was the concept of discussing leg pressure, leg support while she bench pressed. So when you bench press for strength, your legs should be pressured and flexed, and they're doing stuff. So your legs have work to do when you bench press for strength, by the way. So bench press is a full body movement, full body bracing. Even though it's just your kind of chest muscles that quote unquote move the bar, your whole body is active. So we were wanting to learn, how does it feel like, or what does it feel like to have your legs active while you bench press? So what we did was we took away her butt support. We elevated her shoulders, we elevated her feet, but we got it to a position in which she didn't have anything underneath her butt. So she had to feel like basically what leg pressure was to just hold her butt and hips in place. So she had upper back support, she had foot support, so she was safe. But we didn't have anything under her butt, and that caused her to have to flex her glutes, pressurize her legs, so she could hold herself in the right position without any support. She had to become her own support. By benching like that for 8 weeks, we taught her, or she learned, how it feels like, what it feels like to have your legs pressured during the bench press. So then when we went back to a regular variation of bench press, she freaking shot up in strength and she felt way more secured because she now knew what it felt like to have her legs pressurized. So she could just find that feeling that she already learned in isolation. So that's the idea. When wanting to learn to feel a cue, you have to find a similar exercises that eliminates other sensations and just tries to isolate out the sensations only associated with that cue. Get good at that exercise and then go back and practice finding that cue, that sensation in the larger movement. So you're going to practice the large movement, but you're also going to practice an isolative movement. So often with clients, I'll superset these. They'll do a set of squats, they would do a set of duck walks for my mom's example. They would do a set of squats, they'd do a set of duck walks, set of squats, set of duck walks. So for the girl doing the bench press, she might do a regular bench press on a regular bench. Then she'd go to the no hip support, do a couple reps there, go back to the regular bench. So we go back and forth, back and forth. So you practice the main movement with that cue in mind, but you also practice an individual isolative movement just for that cue. So learning how to cue the cue, learning how to find exercises that do that for you will help you develop better technique in a faster time frame than just doing the large movement over and over again, feeling frustrated while you can't feel the cue. So the advice of how do you get better at squats, just squat, there's some truth to that. You do have to squat to get better at squats. But why not add in things that are isolative that help you feel how to squat better? Why not do both? So that's the idea of cueing the cue. So hopefully you can kind of take this idea, try to figure out how to do it on your own. So whatever sensation you're struggling with, try to find an exercise that only does that. And then practice the hell out of it, and then start practicing the large movement again. Okay? So hopefully this helps. Hopefully it gives you some ideas on how you can improve your technique in a faster way by learning how to cue the cue. So find exercises before, during, or after the main movement that mimic parts of the main movement that you have difficulty with. And do them a whole bunch, okay? And get better at them, okay? If you get better at those techniques, you're going to get better at the large technique. So give it a try. Hopefully it helps. If you have any ideas or kind of you want help with programming or you want help with kind of coming up with those exercises, shoot us an email, brutalirongym@gmail.com, and we'll help you out. Okay? Cool. So good luck to you. Email us if you need anything, if you need any help. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.